Stephens, that shot. What a good break for Purdue.
How often do you see that? Guy takes it and shoots an air ball. If you've got heads up deep, offensive rebounding, you put it right back in. Not getting a lot of screens for Edwards so far.
Jadlow going to the glass up on Scheffler.
Well, they're going to call that on Jadlow, but really he was fouled also on the play. Small lineup has gotten Indiana really into bad foul trouble, hasn't it? You know, they just are being overpowered on the inside. They have to do too much reaching and pushing to get the ball.
And with them over the limit, Purdue will come down and begin shooting the one-on-one.
You think, what does Bobby Knight have to counter with? He's got Steve Isle coming up right now off the bench. Try to get a little bit more size in the lineup. He can't come back with Garrett here for the rest of the half, so he's really got a problem.
Knight was honest yesterday when he arrived for the shoot-around in the early evening. He said, if Garrett gets into foul trouble for me early, it is possible that we will be blown out. He said this is a very good Purdue team, and they are extremely well coached. As Isle reached back in, he was fouled. Burning his first.
Scheffler and Kip Jones really aren't the guys you want on that foul line very often. Jones shooting under 50%. Scheffler right at 63.
Mitchell coming in, and Bernie sits down for the Boilermakers.
What really helps, too, as far as Gene Cady is concerned, is he can rest McCants, keep him out of foul trouble the entire half if he needs to.
Knocked away by Mitchell and out of bounds. Isle wanted Smart. What cut in and good help.
What's the problem here? You see, Purdue does not guard the man taking the ball out of bounds, which gives them one extra defender.
They break Hillman. They got Kip Jones up in the air and then hit the layup, his first field goal, so it's 22-14.
Jones was thinking there. He knows Hillman's not a great leaper, so he could have just stayed on his feet. Jones can get off the ground.
Stephens battling for the rebound, and Scheffler commits his first personal. And that's 4 against Purdue.
Stephens' shot selection has really not been good here in the first half, particularly when you take in consideration Scheffler has been able to get good position. You know, they might as well go inside while they can attack there.
Billy, you have seen Michigan. How does Purdue compare with Michigan?
Well, that was an excellent basketball game. You know, when they played, I think Purdue has just enough size for Michigan, and one of the things that Purdue is so good at is when it gets down the last 4 or 5 minutes of the ball game, they can really work that clock.
Cady practices that, time situations. Watched him yesterday. His great play there by Smart, cutting off the roll, and it's 22-16. So with Garrett on the bench, the Hoosiers have dug in. They lob deep to Mitchell, and Smart reaches to slap it away.
Jadlow really working on McCants.
Mitchell. Rebound by Hillman. And the Hoosiers are hustling their way back into this one.
They may have to get Troy Lewis back in this ball game to start hitting something from outside.
Jadlow traveled. Well, we've got a television timeout. Knight unhappy with that turnover. That's the time remaining in the first half. From the Mackey Arena in West Lafayette, Indiana, I'm Brian Musburger along with Billy Packer. The Boilermakers leading Indiana 22-16. North Carolina and Temple go to the half with the Tar Heels leading Temple 39-34. The Owls rank number 1. They were beaten at Las Vegas. If they lose to Carolina and Purdue wins, then everyone expects the Boilermakers to move to number 1 in the AP poll for the first time in the history of this school. Now, Gene Cady has accomplished a great deal since coming here in 1980, but their failures in the NCAA tournament have dampened what the public at large thinks about this basketball program. But it's a good one. The team is dedicated to doing something against it. And Troy Lewis hits the shot that extends the Boilermakers' lead. It's his first field goal of the game.
Now, Gene Cady wants a three-pointer on that, and I believe that it was. Now, he has the right to go to the scorer's table and question that. It has only been awarded 2.
Keith Smart reinserted back into Coach Knight's starting lineup, along with Callaway, who hits his first field goal of the game. We'll take a look at that on replay. Our producer, Bob Deacus, indicates that it may well have been. We'll check on it here shortly. Lewis off a fake. Short, and Hillman rebounding for Knight.
You notice Lewis does not have the great athletic ability for that quick step, but because his jump shot is so good, you've got to play him tight. Enables him, without that quickness of foot speed, to be able to still go by you.
Smart cutting and weaving inside. Goaltending is what the crowd wanted. Niles stayed with that one and hit his first field goal. Purdue, despite the fact that Dean Garrett is out for Indiana with 3 fouls, cannot shake the Hoosiers. McCants is fouled by Hillman. Let's take a close look at this, Billy. What did it show?
Without question, he's behind the three-point line. It should have been a three-point shot. None of the officials called it at all, and Gene Cady should have gone right up to the sidelines. See, he's a foot behind the three-point line. Not one of the officials, of course, the fellow under the basket's not his responsibility, but that should have been a three-point play. There he is. He's a good 6 inches behind the line, no question about it.
I guess my question is, how can all 3 officials miss that?
Well, the responsibility, obviously, was the official right to his immediate right. Should have been right on top of it. Wasn't even a tough call.
McCants gets a roll. So far, McCants with 10 points, 3 rebounds. He's perfect at the free throw line. Remember, Dean Garrett ate him up down in Bloomington with 31 points, including the game winner. In that game, Purdue trailed by as many as 21 and came back to take the lead 3 times.
But you know what was interesting? I talked to Dan Dockich the other day, a former member of one of Bob Knight's top ball clubs. Dan said, though, even when Purdue was down 21, he could see to the look in their eyes that they felt they would get back into the ball club, which is back into the game, which is a mark of a great ball club. Purdue goes zone.
Crashing inside is fouled.
2-3 zone with McCants right in the middle. Now this may mean it's time for Jay Edwards to get back into the ball game to extend that defense a little bit. Because on this floor right now, Indiana does not have a real three-point shooter.
First foul on Mitchell.
I'm watching Bobby Knight and see, here he goes. He's going right over to Edwards. I said it would be a chess match. The coach goes to his zone. Next coach comes back with his weapon.
The first free throw shot here this afternoon by Indiana, and it's missed. Purdue is 7 of 10 at the line. Purdue gets to the line a lot more than its opponents. Don't think it's just the refereeing here this afternoon. Purdue has shot 200 more free throws than the teams they have played all season long.
A lot of reasons for that, Brent. One is this offense that they run. They get good shots. They make you really work on the interior. There's a great pass.
On the turnover, though, he couldn't get the handle. Hillman.
Look at Edwards.
Cross to Edwards.
That was great reaction by Jones to realize where Edwards was.
Hillman looking to set the table all the time. Now it's Smart off the cut, and he gives it up, and Isles there. Pretty play by the Hoosiers, wasn't it?
Steve Smart did not have his eyes closed on these games. He was sitting on a bench. He is playing very well today in every facet of the game.
You've got to be impressed the way Indiana hanging tough here without Dean Garrett. Purdue might have relaxed with the big man out. McCants will come up to the line as Jadlow is whistled for his second personal.
Stevens really having an off first half here for him, and he has played extremely well this year. Well, you're looking at 2 guys on this starting lineup, made preseason All Big Ten first team. And Stevens coming right behind on the 3rd squad, along with McCants. So this club is highly thought of by the Big Ten coaches. Wasn't exactly clean, but they count the same. Heralded recruit when he showed up here at Purdue. Outstanding high school player in Chicago.
Along with that one, Isle pulls it away, and this is Edwards. Silky smooth is the way they describe Edwards, the freshman. Giving it to Hillman, wide open that time.
great movement on the inside, and you can see because Edwards is such a good shooter, he extends the defense out, which allows plenty of room and spacing on the inside for Indiana to make their cuts.
Well, there's a talent advantage for Purdue, but in terms of hustle, Indiana's had it here the last few minutes, and that's enabling them to stay in the game. They take it away defensively again. The trademark of a night-coach team.
Jones never saw Jad Lowe behind him when he went up for that shot.
Smart glide goes to the left hand.
He explodes inside.
Stephens from the corner, and Purdue regains the lead.
That was a great comeback by Stephens. He looked as if he was going through, and when Smart looked for the switch, Stephens peeled back, and that's why he was wide open for the jumper.
Hillman. Short. McCants. Wanted Mitchell, but turned it over.
Stephens just didn't have the angle for that pass. He had the right idea, but no angle.
So that is 4 turnovers for KD's team. We've got a timeout, television break, and we'll be right back.
Volkswagen.
3, and you can't find an empty seat here in the house that Rick Mount fills. Do you remember Rick? What a great scorer he was here at Purdue. Their all-time leading scorer with more than 2,300 points, 932 points in a single season. And he has passed along one of his familiar trademarks. His son, Rich Mount, is now a 6'3" junior guard at Lebanon High School. And that jump shot familiar out there? The average is 26 per game, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wore those same colors here at Purdue.
You know what's interesting, Brent? Mike Newell, the coach at Arkansas Little Rock, is the man who holds the record, however, in this Mackey Arena for scoring. He hit in the 50s, 54 points, I think, in here one time in a high school ball game.
And the storyline is Garrett, with those 3 fouls, went out with Indiana down 16-8. And now look at what's happened. The Hoosiers have hustled their way right back into this game.
And they're in that little matchup 2-3 zone. Have to be aware of Edwards in this zone.
Holloway.
Here he is.
Over to Edwards. The 3. He hits the home run, and Indiana jumps back ahead.
He's made 20 of 32 three-point shots in the last 5 games. I'd say you better be aware of him.
Freshmen are supposed to be inconsistent.
Well, of course, he was inconsistent academically in the first semester. Bob Knight made him sick, and he hasn't been since he's come back.
Sloppy turnover. Holloway can't keep it, but the foul is called as Jones went down. I'm not sure the official had a good angle on that. He was in a foot race. He was more alongside Jones than he was ahead of him to make that call.
Jones, a great wide receiver in high school, had 9 TDs his senior year.
He's an aviation major. He can fly his own airplane. The airport is right here on this campus. In fact, Amelia Earhart, on her ill-fated voyage, took off from this airport, which is about 5 minutes from this arena.
Maybe less than that, Brent, when you're trying to make it to the airport tonight.
We will make it. Edwards. Oh, my.
There's a young man who was his teammate Jones. Only 2 fellas, only before has a high school won 3 straight Indiana State championships, and there are 2 guys that were on those clubs. Franklin High did it.
Stephens whips one to Lewis. Now that's senior leadership. Stephens, Lewis, and of course Mitchell.
Using that left hand on the dribble.
Now Holloway trying to get involved in the offense. McCants yanks his miss away.
Indiana may have to take a little time off the clock, Brent. This game getting to them a little bit right now in this stretch. You can feel the momentum swinging to Purdue.
Lewis. And Stephens was there for the rebound, and he misses.
He's having a rough first half. See, Bobby Knight, he's telling the club, take a little time off this clock, and he can feel it too. Want to move the ball and make Purdue work some.
Indiana's hit 7 of its last 10. make it 8 of 11. I'm not sure Knight wanted that shot, but you'll always take it. And boy, what a good-looking shooter that freshman is.
I think Edwards gave Jones a little peace of mind, too, when he came down off that jumper.
McCants backing in, muscling Jadlow. That was Heil, actually. He was backing in. Let me correct that.
You can't let a wide body like that get down in such a low post position. McCants only had to make one dribble and get himself right in position to make a 2-footer.
What a difference.
Of course, you can't have big stats when you're sitting on that sideline for a good portion of the half with 3 fouls.
But let me say that Indiana was too dependent on Garrett, my observation, at both ends of the floor. And with him over there, they have played a better team concept. And you would think that if Bob keeps him out for the first half, when he comes back in the second half, he can fit in here, too.
What might have happened to Purdue also is that getting him on the bench, they may have relaxed mentally a little bit. If Bob Knight is down 2, you want to stay there. Is that another walk?
Oh, foul is called on Scheffler.
Jadlow did not have quick feet. There's no reason to commit a foul on him that far from the basket. He's a good outside shooter, but when he puts it on the ground, there's plenty of time to react.
Jadlow and teammate Keith Smart played against each other in junior college ball.
Well, interesting. Jadlow was a 4.0 student in junior college. He was a 2-time All-Stater in Kansas. There's some talk that, he went to junior college because he wasn't recruited heavily by the type of schools he thought he was capable of playing in. Bobby Knight came in and captivated him, and of course, Larry Brown loved to have him back at Kansas right now. Good shooting stroke. Over Kandowski. That should never happen, not that way, for the simple reason that pass wasn't even that well thrown. Callaway not looking. Big break.
Katie wanting that loose ball.
What a
spinner by Edwards. Loose. This should be easy.
Brett, what's creating this is when Edwards goes one-on-one, in this case, Smart has got to pull back for defensive balance because there's nobody back there with a bigger lineup to handle anybody on a fast break. Callaway's going to the boards, Pelkowski's going to the boards, Jadlow's going to the boards, so Edwards goes and makes his move. Smart has got to rotate back for defensive balance.
Ryan Sloan replaces Pelkowski.
And he replaced him based on that lob pass that was thrown right over Pelkowski's head. Bob Knight explaining that to him. In no uncertain terms.
He'll take you out much quicker for a defensive lapse than an offensive shooting mistake.
And he'll never take you out for an effort. And there was a case where there's just a mental breakdown.
Jay Edwards. He's been the hot Hoosier here so far, keeping them in the game with his shooting. He's scored 8 of Indiana's last 10.
Now, Brett, when you think about those kids winning 3 straight championships at Marion, Indiana, when everybody in the state is in that tournament, in every division, what an accomplishment.
And so many fine high school basketball teams throughout this state of Indiana, too. Stephens puts it down.
Can't get it to fall in the first half.
First on Sloan.
If you're Bobby Knight, though, you've got to be pretty happy with this first half to have your ace on the bench for just about the entire way and still be right in the ballgame.
The Hoosiers 7-5 in the Big Ten, and Purdue 10-1.
And started out of the box winning only 1 of their first 6.
Stephens, a superb high school player up in Evanston, suburb right north of Chicago. So with the game tied at 38 and 3:57 to go, we'll take a timeout.
Let's take a little ride in a road car from Mazda. I think you're going to be surprised. It's got all the right hardware. No surprise there. Electronic fuel injection, overhead cam engine, four-wheel independent suspension. It even has the best warranty in its class. Guess what? It's the Mazda 323, a road car that also happens to be today's best value in a small family sedan. I like surprises like this.
No one really knows how your skin got sensitive. But if it is, try the shave cream with more advanced lubricants than any other. Gillette Foamy for sensitive skin.
Wherever you live. With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. Jim Nance joining us today, and I'm sure, Jim, that you enjoyed Brian Boitano's gold medal last night as much as we did watching on television. What you got planned for us at halftime?
All right, we've got a full lineup here at halftime, Brent. Of course, we'll check the scoreboard. Plus, we'll hear from some of the combatants from yesterday's flare-ups on the basketball floor. We'll also explore the issue of what it takes to qualify this year for March Madness. That's all coming up halftime on the College Basketball Report. Let's go back to Brent.
All right, Jim, thank you. In case you have not seen those two ugly incidents from yesterday, Jim coming up with them at halftime. Hopefully no one was injured, but there were some nasty punches thrown, and we'll look into them. One involving Georgetown, Pittsburgh. The other was Louisville in South Carolina. All right, Indiana coming down on the attack now. Billy?
One of the things that you can do against a team that does not guard you out of bounds like that is to go ahead, throw the ball on the sideline, step a man out, and then change up their defense completely. That's twice today. Indiana's had a hard time getting the ball in bounds.
Edwards did a good defensive job that time on Stevens, didn't he? After Callaway had hit his second field goal of the game, and Knight is up complaining to the officials.
Well, he gets a foul on one of his own players.
I thought for a moment he was going to wheel on Knight and call the technical. Now, Knight is holding the ball here, and he thought better of doing anything other than handing it over.
His buddy, John Havlicek, probably said that's the second pass Bobby Knight's ever thrown in his life. In college, he didn't play defense and never wanted to pass. Now he teaches defense and makes you pass.
Purdue wins it. Scheffler comes away, and this is Lewis.
Scheffler's got those hands taped up. He looks like a heavyweight fighter, doesn't he? Setting some solid screens in there.
McCants can't get the roll. And the foul goes against Purdue, and that's Scheffler's third. Now, after our NCAA action, NBA basketball. And there's a former Hoosier on the left, Isaiah Thomas, and of course he used to duel against Michigan State, where Magic Johnson played his college basketball. Detroit against Los Angeles, the Lakers and the Pistons. Some say that's a preview of the NBA championship. Larry Bird says don't be too sure about that.
What's interesting there, too, is those two fellas are very good friends and have been for a long, long time. Off the court.
Jadlow has played nicely off Knight's bench here with Garrett sitting down. That's 5 points and a pair of rebounds, and defensively he's done what his coach wanted.
I really think that Purdue has gone into a mental lapse with Garrett out of the ballgame. They really haven't gotten their offense in sync at all. Now here they go to their little box. But they're just not giving Lewis any opportunity to get off his jump shot. A lot of movement here by Purdue.
And that defense right with them. They force Mitchell to the outside where he misses, but they get the roll, and Tony Jones draws the foul, and he'll shoot a pair of free throws. That's the first personal by Edwards.
Now, Brent, one of the things that was so good about Purdue being an experienced team, they went to that offensive structure right there. They moved the ball. They kept their spacing out there. And one of the things you get when you get in an offense like that is an opportunity to have good offensive rebounding, which is what they had. 9-2, huh?
Jones, the sophomore, out of Fort Wayne. 17 free throws shot by Purdue so far in the first half to 8 by the Hoosiers.
Fella had 8 rebounds against Iowa. Changed their press up a little bit. the man-to-man.
Smart turns it over. Then gets back defensively, and traveling is the call.
Well, you see so often that the referee automatically calls when a man falls down, but I felt that Lewis was already on the ground and wasn't taking advantage of his position. Here's Jones with his great ability inside. He's so strong. Now let's see if he's not already down. See, he's down on the ground. He did not fall, did not gain any advantage. Purdue lost one on that one. Edwards is so good using that left hand. Indiana really makes you work when you're on defense. They stay with that pattern so well.
Smart travel.
Boy, and with a lead, you don't need to make that kind of turnover. Katie going crazy with the ref.
Mitchell. Loose. Purdue comes up with it.
Stephens wanting a three-pointer. Lewis doesn't get it for him across court.
Foul down away, and it's against Jadlow, and Knight is furious.
He may get a tee on this one.
Knight is furious.
He's going to get one on this one. But that was coming. And I would say Katie's going to get one before this game is over, Brent. Just to balance things up.
McCants hits the technical.
Now let's think of this spread in the score right here, because this will be a two-shot technical. Ball out of bounds, obviously, and the foul inside.
Knight still wanting a word with Ted Hillary, and he sent Keith Smart out for a conversation.
This can be a 6-point turnaround. Oh, no question about that being a foul. Jadlow was holding him before it was ever taking place. Good call by the official. Jadlow saying why. And the ball out of bounds, Brent. Bob better go sit back down right here. As hot as he is, there's no purpose to bury your team in the hole a little bit further.
And Purdue gets the ball, too. As they regain the lead here, and they go low to Mitchell, but they couldn't put it away. That would have been a big emotional lift for the Boilermakers. Mackey Arena would have exploded if they had hit that dunk.
Now watch Katie the rest of the half. He's going to work these officials real hard trying to get one of his own.
Now McCants on the inside, his second personal. We should not overlook McCants' offensive contribution so far. That's 17 points scored by the Boilermakers center. So with Dean Garrett out, Bob Knight has been hurt defensively, and he continues to bark at the officials from out in front of the Indiana bench. Short on the free throw.
But one of the reasons McCants has been able to have such a big half is the fact that they're playing outside so tough on the three-point shooters. There's a lot of room for them to operate inside.
The three by Stephens.
And that time, Indiana packed their defense back in, and Purdue counters with a good three-point shot.
Suddenly, since that technical, the Boilermakers have regained control. They're up by 5.
Jadlow not too quick with his feet, is he? Doesn't pivot very well.
Callaway gets loose on the inside. Back to 3.
Got a chance for a last shot right here. Purdue spreads you out as well as anybody in the country. Whether they've got the three-guard lineup or not, Stephens and Lewis are very good at this offense.
Jones. Final shot time, and Smart will have to hurry.
Oh, yes.
A three by Keith Smart.
But, Brent, if you're playing against Indiana, you're not going to let Smart or Edwards get this shot off. They had him double team, but there's that vertical leap of his going over everybody and burying it for three.
When you want a hero, dial Smart. The end of the first half with the score, Purdue 49, Indiana 47. Jim Nance will return with our college basketball report after this message and a word from your local station.
CBS Sports presents college basketball. Today's game is sponsored by Mazda, bringing performance and value together. That's the Mazda way.
It's halftime here in the Hoosier State. Second-ranked Purdue enjoying a slim 2-point lead over Indiana. And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the College Basketball Report. I'm Jim Nance. Let's get right to the scores. Top-ranked Temple scored the first 19 points of the second half. It took North Carolina 6.5 minutes in the second half to finally score, and the Owls are leading in that game that Purdue has great interest in. Also on the scoreboard, 15th-ranked Missouri leading over Oklahoma State. That's in the first half. But the Tigers, keep in mind, have won 20 consecutive home games. Right now, we're in the cold of winter, but there's been some heated basketball action, especially in the college ranks. You know, yesterday, tempers flared, especially in that game, Georgetown and Pittsburgh. Let's take a recap now of some of yesterday's flare-ups.
I can tell something was going to happen because the game was just too physical all the way around.
Jerome Lane and Georgetown's Perry McDonald had been after it all afternoon. And here in the closing seconds, their exchange cleared the benches. The ugliest scene pits Demetrius Gore jarring Sam Jefferson, who walked away with the biggest scars. These two teams had an altercation in the first meeting this year. A closer look, lower left-hand side, shows McDonald's elbow to Lane's head. John Thompson pulled his team off the floor with 4 seconds to go. Pit the winner.
Keep taking elbows and punches, and all through the game, they get all the physical things, and we get called for the fouls. So we just got to play it the way they play it.
Anytime you're playing with that level of intensity, you know, and two kids bump or say something is going to happen. You don't want that to happen, certainly. But it does happen. I think it's ridiculous to say it's just the Big East.
No, it's not just the Big East. In the Metro, with Louisville trailing South Carolina by 14, with more than a minute to go, another scuffle underneath. And Darrell Martin of South Carolina drilled LeBradford Smith of Louisville to the face. The South Carolina bench is empty. Herbert Crook and a few of the Cardinals took on the Gamecocks and some of their fans. After technical free throws, Louisville staged a big comeback. And here, with time running out in regulation, Greg Hawley's shot sent the game to overtime. The Gamecocks may have won the fight, but Louisville won the war in double overtime. Now, Metro Commissioner Ralph McFillin says he'll review tapes and take appropriate action this week. Now, Big East Commissioner Dave Gavitt told us that the conference will hold a special executive committee meeting this week to, quote, ensure the immediate discontinuation of such unacceptable behavior in the future. Now, in the NBA, Chicago is playing at Cleveland. Michael Jordan has 19, but the Bulls are trailing by 1 point at the half. And coming up after Indiana and Purdue, it's the NBA on CBS. The Lakers will be hosting the Detroit Pistons. For a report on that game, let's go to the Los Angeles Forum, and here's Dick Stockton.
Don't let them break you down.
This was the scene this morning here at the Forum in Inglewood as Pat Riley sent his Los Angeles Lakers, the defending world champions, through their paces in preparation for their big clash against the Detroit Pistons this afternoon. The Lakers are a red-hot team. They have won 30 of their last 33 games, thanks in part to the sensational play of guard Byron Scott, who's averaging over 20 points a game, and he has gotten a lot of help from his backcourt teammate, Magic Johnson.
The way Magic talks, and I know you know how he talks, he just gets you ready and prepared, and he really gets you to believe that you can't be stopped. And he installed that in me from that day on, it's been going just like it has since then.
Well, Billy Cunningham, Scott scored 35 against the Pistons in their first meeting, and today will be matched up with Isaiah Thomas.
The big key with Byron Scott is his game has become consistent. He was a streaky offensive player and a good defensive player. He's a consistent offensive player now. And a big matchup is Isaiah Thomas against Byron Scott. Heck of a matchup.
And the Detroit Pistons arriving here at the Forum, a very big game for them on the road against the world champions coming up, the Pistons and the Lakers. Right now, let's return to Jim Nance.
All right, thank you very much, Dick. Again, that's coming up after Indiana and Purdue here on CBS. Now, coming up next on the College Basketball Report, we'll talk about how they'll select 64 teams for this year's NCAA tournament. That's coming up next.
Pressures. I feel those pressures every day, trying to do a good job in class, trying to help my team win games, and just trying to cope with life. Alcohol and other drugs won't make problems and pressures disappear. Those things don't really help when life gets a little rough. They only make the tough times tougher, and nobody needs that.
A message from the Big Ten Conference.
A collision of top 20 teams. Next Saturday, a Big Ten brawl as Michigan battles Iowa. Next Sunday, Ronnie Cycli ignites Syracuse against Rex Chapman and Kentucky as March Madness nears next weekend on the home of the NCAA Championship.
Welcome back to the beautiful Mackey Arena in West Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue leading here 49-47 at halftime. You know, really, Purdue is a lock to be in this year's NCAA tournament, but that's not the case with many teams. As we head down the final stretch of the regular season, many coaches are asking, what will it take this year to qualify for the tournament? March Madness can stimulate all of the human emotions. From extreme jubilation to downright madness. As the tournament has grown in teams, so have the number of controversies. Of the 64 tournament teams, 30 claim automatic bids by winning their conference or conference tournament. It's the 34 at-large selections that can cause an uproar.
It becomes increasingly difficult because the farther out you go, the more parity is in the teams that you have to choose from.
Arnie Farron and his committee of 8 use a ratings power index, a computation of a team's strength based on record, opponent's record, and opponent's record.
We have a myriad of information. Every poll that is legitimate is used. We have an advisory committee of one coach from each conference and a coach representing every 8 independents that nominate teams to be considered. From this information, we begin to determine which those 34 teams are.
I think the committee does a super job in an impossible task. But fair? If you get in, it's fair. If you don't get in, it's unfair, that's for sure.
The selection crew this year will for certain face several tough decisions in filtering the country down to the 64 best. Now, here's a very realistic but hypothetical situation in the selection process. Let's say Team A is 24-6 with the bulk of its wins against lower echelon opponents. Team B's substandard record, however, happened against quality teams. Which team gets the bid?
The best teams play the toughest schedules, and they don't have cupcake games in there, or they don't schedule to get in the NCAA tournament. In that case, I believe our committee would go with the team that had played the most opponents that were ranked in the top 50 or the top 100, even though they had won a few less games.
Now, although the tournament has been successful at size 64, some coaches say there is still room for improvements.
Well, the only thing that I would like to see done, well, there would never be anybody playing somebody's home court. That advantage is just too big.
Teams that in leagues that never win an NCAA tournament game yet still get an automatic qualification, I don't think that's fair to the ones that are competitive. If you're not competitive, if your league's not competitive, an automatic bid seems to me to be out of line.
So as March approaches, all coaches look for a tournament slot and a shot at the Final Four's golden anniversary in Kansas City. Well, Selection Day is 3 weeks from today. You can tell by the crowd we're getting set for the second half. Thanks for watching the College Basketball Report. We'll rejoin Brett and Billy after this message and a word from your local station.
Quaker State, the Big Q's.
Basketball. Today's game is sponsored by GMAC, the official sponsor of America's dreams. The heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. And by the U.S. Navy. We invite you to learn the technology of tomorrow in the Navy of today.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second half. Along with Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. Purdue leading by 2 behind Mel McCants, their center, who has scored 17 points. McCants has turned it around from an earlier meeting with Indiana. His career high, incidentally, is only 22. Now, from the field, the Hoosiers are hitting 63% against the Purdue defense, which allowed only 45% from the field all season long. At the free throw line, Purdue this year has shot 200 more than their opponents, and again, they are getting to the free throw line here today, 22-9, the edge over Indiana. Billy, what can we expect now from Coach Knight and Coach Cady here?
Well, Coach Knight is going to go as long as he can without putting Garrett into the ballgame. One of the things that's quite obvious is that Indiana has really cut off the three-point shooting of Lewis and Stephens, but that's given McCants time to operate on the inside.
Knight, of course, starts the lineup that finished the first half. The turnover on the first possession by the Hoosiers. So that means defensively, Callaway, Smart, the freshman Edwards, Jadlow is out there with Isle. Now for Purdue, they come down to the attack with their starting 5. Jones, Stephens is out there along with Lewis, Mitchell, and McCants. The big man down on the inside is number 35. They hit Mitchell on the cut, and he hits a field goal. That's his first field goal of the game.
Brent, you see that Purdue is going to that box set now, trying to get back into an offensive pattern, which they got out of in the first half when they went to inside to McCants so much.
Jadlow falling away, and Jones rebounds. Into the hands of Stephens, their leader, across to Lewis, and Lewis buries it too.
And was fouled on the shot. Referee looking right at it, makes no call. Great jump stop on that. He squares up on that jump shot so well.
Pick up Smart high this time defensively. This is Isle. The freshman Edwards takes the 3. Purdue rebounds. Into the hands of Lewis. Jones trying to get McCants. Smart stepped out of bounds. Purdue ball.
Hillman probably coming in for Callaway. Let's see what the move is. It is, but I would say that Bob Knight had tried to use both minutes and score here to make the determination on when he comes back with Garrett. He can't afford to let Purdue get a run on him.
Purdue broke ahead 16-8, then extended it to 11 points. And without Garrett, Knight's Hoosiers dug in and came back. They took a lead. In fact, they were ahead 42-40 when a technical was called, and it was a 7-point turnaround at that point. Isle rebounding for the Hoosiers. Meanwhile, Temple ripping North Carolina. Smart coming down for a layup. The Owls surprising a lot of folks by going into North Carolina and coming away with a win, and that would be enormous for Coach Chaney and his talented Owls.
They really struggled the other day against Penn State. They've had a number of days off to prepare for this game. Great steal by Smart.
Steals it from Lewis. Protecting the ball, goes for the layup. Doesn't draw the foul.
That was really a very smart play by Keith Smart. Instead of trying to break away, giving Lewis a chance to run with him, he knew he could explode at the end and whip him to the basket. Purdue getting much more in tune to running their offense this half.
They are a good half-court team. Very well disciplined. Jadlow. That's his 4th personal foul, and the foul problems mount for Knight and the Hoosiers.
They run that half-court offense, and this is one of the reasons going down the stretch they're so good. They have something to rely on, not just one player going one-on-one.
Steal by Isle. Lead now to Smart. And he is smashed to the floor.
Shows you Jones's great speed. He's Smart having quite a game, Brent.
There's going to be a question of an intentional foul on this play.
No, I don't know. I think that Jones stayed right with him, and the block certainly was a good block here. Look at that speed that Jones has, because we know Smart can explode. No, I think everybody was going for the ball.
His second foul, foul number 1.
You've got to figure this young man coming on the scene with all the great acclaim last year after winning the national championship with that shot, the Pan Am game team that he made this year, then coming back and having to sit, but he hasn't had one remark that's been out of line sitting on that bench, and I think that's something to be admired.
He handled the benching, they tell me, better than Callaway did, saying he played his way to the bench. And he was sorry that he had not become the complete basketball player that Knight had wanted.
I think all Bob Knight needs to keep him going is put games on CBS, because he's been great every time we've had him.
We've got him all world.
Had a great game last year against Ohio State, and they shut down Steve Alford.
Here's McCants. Isle had fallen down. Can't get the roll. Jadlow muscled away by Mitchell, though, underneath. Lewis bangs a three, hits the home run.
You know, with him, you almost have to go right at him when he gets the ball out there at that distance. And
foul going against Purdue.
That'd have been a good no call there. Lewis tried to step in front.
How about 40 straight games with at least one three-point field goal, and still, until someone tells us otherwise, let's call that a record.
Yeah. Every time you come out with one of those little stats, Brent, there's some guy will write in, and there'll be a guy at Boise State or somewhere that has had 53.
Jadlow playing with the 4 fouls. He drew the 3rd from Jones that time.
What do you figure the time is? 12 minutes before we see Garrett again?
Either that or Coach Knight is waiting for Jadlow to foul out. He's playing with 4, and he might be content to sit there and let Jadlow go and pick up the 5th and then bring him in. Underneath, Isle assessed his 2nd.
As rough as this game has been, we're getting some real cheap fouls here in the second half.
It has been my observation through the years that when fights break out on one day, the officiating tightens up a day too late.
There's the box. And Hillman sticking right with Lewis. Well, when Indiana switches so much, it's tough to get back on a man.
Stevens gets it inside to Mitchell. That senior experience.
And Brett, there's a situation where Stevens, such a good three-point shooter, the defender that time on Mitchell had to turn his head, assuming it would be a shot.
Garrett will return here shortly. Smart missing that. Jadlow came up over the top, his 5th personal.
That's tough.
Knight did not need that. He was going to take him out before he picked up his 5th foul, but they could not get Garrett into the game. Now, of course, they have to.
About what Knight has left is Pelkowski, who came in for just a very brief stint in the first half. And as you know, Indiana does not like to play zone, so they're not going to hide Garrett in his zone defense. And you better believe that Purdue's going to work it till they can get him matched up with somebody inside. There's McCants right now. Good job by Isle.
This is Mitchell again.
You can see Garrett, who's a great shot blocker, set an IU record last year in blocking shots. Did not aggressively go after that one.
Edwards with a spinner. Isle trying to tap it in. And Stevens comes away. Lewis. Missed the 3. Edwards rebounding.
Silky smooth player, isn't he? Never looks like he's putting out, but is always in the spot.
Now Garrett. And that time he drew the foul. Mitchell's 2nd. That's 4 against Purdue already here in the second half. Now Cady starting to plead his case at the other end. So we'll take a television timeout at the 15-13 mark.
That's thing. Brenny's a great baseball player, football player, and track star, and not a basketball player, and now he's one of the nation's best basketball coaches.
Now Indiana with possession and looking for a run to get back in this. Isle foul by Stephens. Smart is the only Hoosier to score in this half, and he has 6 points.
Garrett being sandwiched on the inside. Lewis trying to help right there. McCants again trying to push him out, keep him out of that zone where he is very comfortable, which is 10 feet on in.
You know, Knight said an interesting thing about the fights to me yesterday. He said, I hope everyone doesn't get outraged every time a punch is thrown. He said this game involves the greatest athletes in the world, and they play in the smallest space of any team game. And he said things like that are going to break out from time to time. He also added, if I get in a fight, I want John Thompson on my side. Stephens comes to the attack for the Boilermakers. Edwards pops out and knocks it out of bounds.
Edwards doing a good job defensively today. That's one of the things that probably has surprised Bob Knight as much as anything. You know, he was not technically ineligible for those games he sat because the second semester had not started. But Bob Knight says when a man becomes ineligible, regardless of the technicality, he's ineligible on my basketball team.
Here's the Aviator.
Got to go into McCants and make Garrett do something inside one time.
Mitchell again.
There's the case. See, Garrett normally would come over and block that shot. You don't want to get carried away with trying to foul him out, but it'd be good to get him in trouble, particularly with the fact that Jadlow's already out of the game. Mitchell's not even guarding Isle when he steps outside.
Garrett takes a shot outside and didn't have the rhythm. Mitchell has certainly turned his game around. He was 0 for 4 in the first half. Now he's 4 for 4 here in the early minutes of the second. Chance on the turnover, and it's Isle. Smart. Kind of a wild throw up. Callaway there underneath. Gets it back into Smart's hands. Smart never stops cutting, does he?
That must be great to know you can go inside and not worry about what's in there and just go over the top of kind of Michael Jordan style. There's Garrett McCants. McCants really wants that ball. Garrett trying to fight over the top, and I think he's going to get called for one. Yep. And that really is Garrett's fault, Brent, because he wasn't in jeopardy there in his defensive positioning and didn't have to fight that hard. Now you have a dilemma if you're Bob Knight. You've got to keep him in the ball game. And if you're Purdue, you got to go right back down inside to McCants.
So with Isle out, Edwards is there with Garrett, Callaway, Smart, and Hillman for Knight.
And Scheffler in the ball game. Oh, great play.
Callaway pulls away the missed layup. Scheffler holding Garrett.
Holding that inside post play. Very tough in this ball game.
At the end of today's game, Billy and I will select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will donate a $1,000 scholarship to the General Scholarship Fund of both Indiana and Purdue.
There's Gene Katie not happy at all with Scheffler defensively. Comes right back and puts McCants in the game. Only been out about 30 seconds.
Purdue up by 7. Did lead by 11 at one point in the first half.
Callaway loves to catch that ball and immediately burst on over the lane. He really has that quick first step.
Smart again looking for the steal. Guarding Lewis a little too tightly. His third personal.
You know, Indiana normally doesn't get in this bad of foul trouble, Brent, but they're trying to do too much of that hand checking outside, looking for the reaching steals. That's normally not their defense.
That's 5 team fouls on the Hoosiers here in the second half.
Most guys, I imagine, guard Lewis feel because he's not really quick that they can get a piece of the ball.
There's 6 as they deal the ball inside to McCants, and Edwards second. a look at the foul situation.
McCants lived on that foul line in that first half.
McCants is 7 of 10 from that line, Billy.
Purdue really doesn't have any weaknesses. You know, you look at their lineup, everybody on that club can have a stellar performance. They don't have the sensational type player, but they really don't have any weaknesses. This fella right here, 7 wins, 8 losses against Bob Knight. Just give him a 500 record. And as you point out at the top of the show, the best record in the Big Ten as a coach since he arrived here at Purdue.
One of America's best-kept coaching secrets, I imagine, simply because of their failures in the NCAA. They haven't advanced past that second round. They've dedicated themselves to doing something about that this year. First things first, they're trying to close out with a Big Ten championship, which would probably give them a top seed in the Midwest as Edwards hits a 3. And a total of 14 for the freshman. And 3s will get you right back in this in a hurry.
Garrett trying to fight over the top of McCants.
Stephens. Garrett going up for the rebound, has it knocked away, and he is fouled. Lewis coming from the inside, picks up his second. And they go to the 1-and-1 with that foul, so they'll come up to the other end. Now, it's only a 2-point game. You know, Billy, I have felt in the last season and a half, I guess we're past the midway point, though, that the 3-point play, it seems to me, now as a fan, has created closer games. We've had more excitement in the last few minutes.
Well, I was talking with Bob Hamill before this game, who's a very astute observer of basketball here in the state of Indiana. And we talked about that it's an entirely different sport than it was prior to 2 years ago. I think that defensively, it extends you on out so that you have a different way you have to play the post. Offensively, you've got to have it as part of your offense. So it is a different game. And I think a lot of coaches have adjusted to it very well.
Garrett shooting for the tie. Along with Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger here at the Mackey Arena, West Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue probably will not climb to 1 because Temple is so impressive this afternoon against North Carolina. But the Boilermakers are trying to hold off Indiana. Their only Big Ten loss earlier this year at Bloomington. Burning on the floor for the second time, and the foul down on the inside against Callaway, his second.
You know, Brett, when I look at this ball game, I really think that Bob Knight, by going to the lineup that he did and Gene Cady trying to match him, it has taken Purdue out of their sync a little bit. You know, that's not the same lineup. Kip Jones normally in that starting lineup. And I think that Purdue has tried to adjust to Indiana more than the other way around, and I think that it has hurt them in this ball game. They're sitting in a situation where they have an opportunity to go in the lead, but you would have expected at this point in time, particularly with the adversity involving Garrett, that Purdue would have a working margin here.
Good afternoon's work by Lewis. Makes it 16 points.
He is one of those players that's worked hard to make him what he is. He's not that gifted an athlete. Smart ball player, has worked on that shot, developed the shot, knows his limitations offensively.
It's been a somewhat tough afternoon for the coach.
See the little turn of the head by Tates.
He's probably done that more than once this year, too. We'll be right back. Dude leading, and they would be unbeatable if that Chicago Bull was wearing the uniform of a Boilermaker. You know, he gave us one of the great moments in NCAA tournament history. So have these Hoosiers, like back in 1976.
Driving to the right side, Fletcher's field. He's on a breakaway. Drives down, puts it up, scores.
I think a big part of us being successful is the fact that we all understood what we were supposed to do. We played to our potential, and there's no better feeling than go through the entire year being the #1 team and then winning the championship.
Indiana's #1. They're the national champions for 1976.
Now the 50th year of the Final Four, and that man has won it 3 times. If you need tickets in Kansas City, call Billy Packer. That'll do it.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. Bob Knight lost Bobby Wilkinson, one of his key players, right early in the ball game, and they didn't miss a beat.
Garrett missing, but there was Smart.
That's a weak side blocking out. Purdue just totally unaware that Smart was back there. The reason he was back there, Brent, he got hit in the face cutting through and went back over to the sideline to try to wipe off his mouth, and nobody realized he was there.
You know, if you watch Keith Smart play just this afternoon, you'd say a coach is crazy for keeping him on the bench. Purdue keeping it alive underneath, and the foul is finally called. Meanwhile, Temple will stay number 1. North Carolina turns it over 29 times and loses 83-66. And now Temple takes dead aim at a top seed in the East.
Now, Brett, they're going to play at West Virginia, a team that's really been struggling of late in the Atlantic 10. They better not celebrate too long, because the last time I can remember a number 1 going in there was UNLV a few years ago, and they never came out alive.
Billy,
this Temple club is very, very good.
Are you as impressed with freshman Macon as a lot of observers?
Yeah, you know, he's on a tear of late. I don't know what he did today, of course, but, you know, he had 31, 25, 23 in the last few games, and they go to him in the clutch. So he is everything that he's supposed to be.
So Purdue will not be number 1 after that impressive win by Temple, but they can certainly stay number 2. Garrett, and that would be the AP poll. Mitchell,
great
rebound. He kept Callaway out of there.
Stevens been very quiet today.
There's McCants. He's been the leading scorer, 19 points now. His career high is 22.
Bob Knight feeling the Tempo going the other way. Hillman did not get back on the weak side.
We'll continue after this word from your local station.
College basketball. Today's game is sponsored by Delco Electronics. From car music systems to onboard computers, automotive electronics, it's who we are. Allstate. Leave it to the good hands people to insure your home, your car, or your family. You're in good hands with Allstate. And by Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
We're at the Mackey Arena in West Lafayette in Indiana, along with Jim Nance and Billy Packer. I'm Brent Musburger. Purdue leading Indiana by 4 in the first half. They were ahead by 11. And you can see that the Hoosiers have cooled off a little bit in the second half, or if you prefer, the defensive intensity at the Purdue end has been tougher, and Todd Mitchell picks up his game offensively.
Bob Knight, a little different set coming out of that timeout, at a double stack down on the one side. Hillman, who has not looked to shoot all day, takes it. That timeout was just a momentum killer. Just can't afford to let a team get a run on you, and so that was a wise timeout.
Mitchell.
Another set play.
In his offensive show in the second half, 13 now for the senior.
Remember that one? Louisville against Duke, Brent? The lob pass over those screens. Tough play to handle.
Hillman again. Lewis rebounding. Burning, who has seen limited play, gives it up.
He may look to take one from outside. Hillman's going to have to stay with him, a dangerous shooter.
Burning again. Mitchell rebounding.
Garrett,
and Hillman coming out is fouled.
Garrett doing a good job keeping his hands up and not doing any reaching inside.
3 on Mitchell. Katie doesn't like it. And next on CBS, the Detroit Pistons and the Los Angeles Lakers coming your way.
Of course, Mitchell, you know, at the preseason this year with a knee surgery, and then they lost Lewis with the foot problem that he had, and you know, everything was going south for Purdue, but fortunately both players back in great physical shape now.
The 16th free throw shot by Indiana. 28 here this afternoon so far by Purdue. Not unusual in a game involving the Boilermakers.
You know, you think of Hillman, you remember him in that Final Four, but how about that LSU game when he had that three-point play? Probably turned that all around, even put Indiana in a position to get to the Final Four. McCants still active down inside on Garrett. They're looking for him. He's screaming for the ball. Nice speed.
And Callaway comes up with it.
Purdue better forget about going inside so much now because Indiana now is packing everything in there. They can look for the three-pointer.
Here's Garrett. Purdue's rebound.
You know, give McCants some credit. He's played a fine defensive game on him, Brent. Has kept
Edwards couldn't come up with the steal.
Ball hit off the referee. It's a case on that pass that Edwards was going out of bounds. He should have been trying to throw that ball in the direction of his basket.
Stephens returns for Purdue. Garrett hasn't regained his shooting touch since getting into that foul trouble early on. He's missed his last 5 from the field. He's now 2 of 8 overall.
And I think you can credit McCants a lot for that because he has pushed him away from his normal shooting range. And as you say, Garrett hasn't been able to get the stroke going.
Here's Mitchell again. He has taken over offensively. 15.
Again, Garrett was right there, but he can't come down for the block. He's blocked about 25 more shots than the whole Purdue team this year, but hasn't gotten one today.
Hillman off the fake. And a follow by Garrett.
Smart play by Hillman. He saw Burning coming at him. No position to handle a man that size.
Travel.
I've seen Purdue play about 6 or 7 times this year, Brett. This is the first time I've seen Stephens have this type of ball game. He hadn't been able to hit early on in the ball game. He may be coming out right away again. Nope, they're going back to the 3 guards. But normally he's been a very consistent player. Kind of like B.J. Armstrong the other day for Iowa, having an off night. Another outstanding guard. The Big Ten loaded with great guard play this year.
Hillman on the cut. Three-pointer.
How about
to the line?
How about the way he used his left shoulder to keep the defenders away from him? Get a sense since that timeout that Indiana called when they were down 4, they've really got themselves back in sync here, staying right in this ball game. I'll throw a stat at you. In games that are 5 points or less in overtime, Purdue has won 21 of 26 of those type contests on the road under Gene Cady. Does that say a little bit about what they do down the wire?
Well, they cannot shake Indiana at home in this one as we approach the stretch. Mitchell, because Garrett cannot step in there and be real aggressive playing with 4 personals.
Yeah, Todd making a change defensively. He's got to aisle up. I wonder if that means he's going to take Garrett out, figuring Garrett, with this foul problem, is not doing the job defensively, so he might as well get him out of there.
Lewis, his 3rd.
Now, what Garrett may have to understand is that don't worry about not fouling out. Get back in there and still try to play some D. That's who he's taking out.
Garrett will sit.
I think he has to understand what his role has got to be the rest of this ball game. He can't worry about committing another foul.
Isle out there with Callaway, Edwards, Hillman, and Smart at the line as Knight gives the message to his center.
And if we had him wired, Brent, I would suggest that what he's probably saying right there is you've got to play. Forget the foul situation. Go out and play and try to block a shot. Can't give him a layup.
I'm chuckling because I'd like to see you put a wireless mic on Knight.
Well, I don't have a big enough bank.
7:15 to go now. Indiana leading again by a single point. Here's McCants.
Strong hands. Having a big game.
Purdue.
I think Edwards lost that ball in his hands on the way up that time. That's the shot he wanted.
Lewis loses it, but Edwards stepped out of bounds. Garrett quickly returns.
And you'll see him be much more aggressive defensively when things happen inside now. Might probably figuring Edwards a little tired. You know, he missed that jumper, which is a shot that he'd normally take and make.
Mitchell again inside.
That pass was perfect. If it off at any degree, there's no way for Mitchell to score.
Garrett sealed up underneath. Was out of bounds when the ball hit him.
Give Indiana players, the Purdue players, a lot of credit on that one, but they knew they had the backboard to help them defend on Garrett because he was caught underneath, and he didn't come down with a chop. Doing a great defensive job today, even though Lewis has scored some points. Whenever Hillman's on him, he has a hard time getting it up.
Indiana down by 3. Hillman cuts inside off the fake, gives it to Garrett. Smart. Garrett can't keep it alive. Jump ball is called. The possession arrow going to Purdue.
That strength of Scheffler just kept that ball alive long enough. Too early to spread. Purdue stays in their box offense.
We approach the 5-minute mark. Mitchell again.
See, Garrett got much more active on that play. First time in his half, he's really gone up there and tried to block a shot. I don't know if there are two teams in the country that run their offense any better half court than these two clubs do. There's drill and drill and drill on it.
Garrett. And it was Isle hustling in for the tap-in basket that pulls the Hoosiers to within 1. Stephens. Home run.
And Everett probably wondering where that's been all day. Again, Brent, that 3-pointer is like 2 possessions, you know, at any time you can hit one.
Callaway, under pressure, fired. Purdue rebounds. A chance to open some daylight.
Dean Cady feels it. He's going to take a timeout. He wants to make sure this possession gets him a good shot.
There's tremendous support for this Purdue team around campus. Right across the way out behind our trucks, the Cary East quadrangle. It's all lighted up. They've installed neon signs supporting this basketball team. As you see a timeout sheet there listing both Indiana and Purdue with 3 timeouts apiece. Both teams over the limit in fouls, and Knight with a final word for his 5 players.
Well, Brent, you mentioned earlier about Gene Cady and the Purdue club having a great record, but not making that advance in the NCAA tournament. It's amazing how much that has to do with your program. And, you know, John Wooden only won 4 of his first 13 games in NCAA tournament play, so maybe that man right there has got quite a future ahead of him. His program is solid.
Right now, 3:38.
How about that lob? Do you think they might throw that lob?
Stephens took a look at it. It was good baseline defense underneath by the Hoosiers.
Steve Weil doing a good job on Mitchell in there.
Switches quickly over to him, and Mitchell brings the jump shot outside. Now, in the first half, Mitchell scored only 3 points, but in this half, he has 18.
And that's what makes him so tough to defend. They really don't have a weak link on a ball club. Good rotation.
Smart tap in by Edwards.
Boy, those touch passes that rotate the ball really set up for the good open shot. Smart probably should have taken the jump shot there. And now they go in a little four corners. And they play this as well as anybody in the country, particularly since the clock has come in. They milk it down, and believe me, when it gets down to the final 12 seconds, they get right into a set that helps them score. Rather early to go to it, though, against a team like Indiana.
Leading by only 4 points. A turnover at the 2-minute mark here, and you could be in trouble. Lewis says nuts to that, and it's the home run off the 4 corners.
They are amazing at how they can work it down in that last 10 seconds and get something. Maybe because they have so many good scores.
Now it's the crunch for the Hoosiers, and they come back. Edwards, the freshman, with 18 points here this afternoon.
Altered his shot on that one, put a little higher arc because Stephens came over for the block.
Now Knight picks him up a little bit higher. Anticipating this stall, and Stephens crashes into Smart, and the foul going against the Hoosiers.
Bobby Knight can't believe that one. There's that profile. You could almost run the luge down that stomach canal. He won't like that one. Or is that the downhill? Having a little conversation with his AD, Mr. Ralph Floyd. Probably wondering if those checks have been sent to that referee yet.
Well, I guess the commissioner, Wayne Duke, will stand another telephone call, right?
Not from Bob, he can't.
Is Bob calling collect?
You know, when they talked about that postseason tournament, Bob said, if I already have my bid, I may play my second team if they have one.
Edwards again. Underneath it was Shuffler, and Callaway fouled him. That's his third.
With as much time as there is on the clock, you don't need Jay Edwards putting that shot up. Now there's a freshman who in time will realize to stay with that offense. And Bob Knight's going to give him a little conversation.
He wants a word with Smart.
Yeah, I think he wants to have him tell Edwards what you're looking for.
You were impressed with Missouri about a week ago, and there's the big win for the Owls of Temple.
You know, you start talking about the first seed in the East. You know, unless they happen to go really sour here in the next couple of weeks, they probably be the #1 seed in the East.
Purdue for the loose ball.
And the clock time.
Now Edwards reaching around, commits the personal. That's his fourth.
You know, Brent, with that win today, a school that's probably very proud is Cheney State, where John Cheney and Vivian Stringer both coached. Vivian now #1 in the nation in women's basketball at Iowa, and John, of course, #1 at Temple. That's quite a feat.
Pistons and the Lakers getting ready to start for you.
Well, you like to have this man on the foul line with that stroke.
I think overall here this afternoon, Purdue has demonstrated more talent than Indiana. They've gotten to the free throw line.
Well, he was Mr. Basketball in Indiana with a guy by the name of Delray Brooks. Remember that name at IU?
Garrett follows. Of course, Garrett got into early foul trouble, and that affected how the Hoosiers played this game. So with 1:21 to go, Purdue in solid control here, 90-83, and we'll be right back.
Listen to the heartbeat. Named Isaiah, the other called Magic. A matchup made in heaven. Next.
Welcome back to the Mackey Arena, and Billy Packer, your overview of what's happened here this afternoon.
Well, I think Indiana has gotten maximum mileage out of their ball team in this game, particularly with Garrett going out early. Just a great performance. I think Purdue has been a little bit out of sync, but they're an outstanding team and going to come away with a win here that's going to cement their position not only in the Big Ten but nationally. And when you look at this Purdue club, there are not a lot of weaknesses out there. A veteran ball club and a team that I think makes a real solid run at the national championship, Brent.
Smart fouls out for Knight. But he played a good game here this afternoon. Reinserted into the starting lineup, and Coach Knight with some praise on that far sideline. Next week we've got some action coming your way. As far as NCAA action is concerned, on Saturday, Michigan against Iowa. Grant taking on that team, which includes Marble, and then in Syracuse and Kentucky on Sunday, and we'll see Douglas and Chapman duel away in that one.
Taking Brenna Gary Grant, there's nobody in the country that's played as well as that young man this year for the University of Michigan. It's got to be a major candidate for Player of the Year in the nation.
Edwards off a good move, and still a chance to catch Purdue as far as the Big Ten is concerned. When you look at the schedules, however, the Boilermakers appear to have an easier road. I say appear because nothing is really ever certain in the Big Ten. We'll be right back. Well, our director, Billy Packer, Peter Bleckner, has reminded me not to overlook the three-point play. This one's not over indeed. And from that three-point line, Indiana 3 of 7, Purdue 4 of 9. There's still 1:03 to go. Good defensive move here on the part of the Hoosiers in the 3. And we'd have a game of it here down the stretch.
Well, you can almost take a chance on fouling a little bit to get that possession back and try to go 3 for 2.
The Hoosiers do not foul immediately, however.
Ball thrown away.
And they get the turnover at the 55-second mark.
Which means, Brent, no matter what happens, they get off one quick. They can have 2 possessions coming. Garrett going to come back in the game for IU on the missed shot. But Indiana really has to go for a 3 here. Go inside first and get it back out to Edwards, maybe even Hillman.
Edwards is 2 of 5 as freshman Lyndon Jones sits down. He was out there to prevent a foul being called against Garrett. And now let's see how the Hoosiers.
Stevens not going to let Edwards touch the ball.
So he goes over after it, comes around aisle, looking for daylight, forces the 2. Off the side of the glass, and Jones rebounds, and that probably should do it. They break free.
Fred, did you see that comment? Don't let the three-pointers get them back in the game. Now, what I think happens to so many teams that are trying to get the three-point shot, they keep the ball on the perimeter. I think you've got to go inside with the ball, make the defense collapse, and then come back out with it. Katie and Knight are now 8 and 8 against each other. Great block.
So the afternoon belongs to the Boilermakers of Purdue. They'll stay in front in the Big Ten race. and they continue gunning for a top seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament, and they begin to have the look of a champion. Chevrolet players of this game for Indiana, a return and a successful one to the starting lineup. Last year's NCAA hero, Keith Smart. And Mel McCants, with 21 points, only one shy of his career high, holds fourth in the middle. And a check in the amount of $1,000 will be donated to each school's general scholarship fund to further assist qualified students in all chosen academic fields. The final score again, Purdue 95, Indiana 85. And NCAA basketball has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the upcoming NCAA championship. So long, everybody.